I also reframe it, it's not the community's role to make a judgment about whether a child has or hasn't been abused. You don't need to prove that as a reporter. Your task is to give us the information, and then through an assessment process, we make a decision, undertake an investigation, and make a determination about whether a child's been abused or neglected. So it's very important that you know, as a reporter, you're not punished if you report your concerns and they're not substantiated. And forming a reasonable belief is, as Kathy talked about very quickly, is when a child makes a disclosure to you directly, or makes a disclosure, tells their story of abuse to somebody else who tells you, or as Joe talked about, there's such a significant change in that child's behaviour and perhaps a change in their circumstances that you are worried, have formed a view that they may have been abused or neglected.
Kathy, you were continuing, weren't you?
No, I'm happy to break it because it kind of, I think it makes it easier then to know what to go on to.
I've seen your hand.
There's a large number of statistics you quoted in all those cases. Are there cases of children, people say, where they might make it up to get someone in trouble, or do you see much of that?
That's not our experience. Yeah, sure. That is not our experience. Our experience is that children may or may not disclose to us. That doesn't mean that they haven't been abused. That might mean that they're scared from highly traumatised. But in most circumstances, as Joe said, children are children and they don't make those experiences up.
Thank you.
What's the official primary prevention policy of DHS or the government or the police? You know, the primary prevention policy.
What do you mean by that, Vivian?
Your tertiary. So,
yes,
it's your role to make sure that once a child is harmed, they're not harmed again. What accounts for it not happening in the first place?
So that is a broader government responsibility, and I don't want to stand up here and say as a tertiary service we don't have a fundamental responsibility to that, because we do. I think as a community and as a government we do. The government funds a whole range of primary services to ensure that children grow up feeling safe and well. So you see that through the delivery of schools and maternal and child health and kinders. And then we have a government-funded secondary service system, which, as Kathy's talked about, services like child first and family support services who work with children who are considered vulnerable.
Just turning the mic, sorry.
Can you ring up anonymous?
Absolutely. So we don't encourage that. To be perfectly honest with you, we don't encourage that. Just because often what's important for us as part of our assessment process is to understand the context and the relationship between the child and the person reporting, but you have a right to do that. The other thing I want to make really clear is, as a reporter, we are compelled not to disclose your details to the child and or family when we investigate, and in fact it's a breach of our legislation if we do that. And I have to say, there's moments when that becomes really tricky, because when you're visiting a family, it's potentially clear to them as to how we've received the information. So we work very hard and diligently to make sure that in the process of having that conversation with the child and his or her family, we don't disclose that detail.
However, under mandatory reporting, I believe that the mandatory reporter is required to testify. Is that correct?
No, the thing is, notifiers are protected by law, and as Tanya said, we try to do everything we can to blur so that people can't say it was you, it was you, it was you. If it gets to a stage where we go to court in relation to something that we, as part of our investigationary process that we've gathered evidence for, that we may need to get someone on a stand to give evidence about, that we would ask people to give evidence, but if it's not about the notify having to get up there to give information.
So a teacher may have made a report to us. They may become part of our assessment, intervention process and plan. We may subpoena them to give evidence at court, but in the process of giving that evidence, their status as a reporter can't be disclosed. It's also probably, thank you, important to add, most of the children and families we work with, we don't take to court. We only apprehend around 7% of the children that we work with. Most children that we work with remain in the care of their families or extended family, and we call that kinship care. And Mary's nodding.
And yes, and obviously when we're talking about, notifiers, making notifications, as we said, they're protected by law. But obviously some people get concerned about information sharing and obviously, providing information. It's really important that professionals that have a key role to play in ensuring that vulnerable children are protected and supported. So this involves sharing information about children's safety and development where authorised by legislation to do so. The legislation allows you to share relevant information about a vulnerable child in specified circumstances without needing to be concerned about legal or professional consequences, provided it's done so in good faith. And obviously we have sections of our Act that actually protect people from providing information. So the Children, Youth and Families Act 2005 S205/1 authorises the giving of information to a protective worker during the course of an investigation. The provision of the information during the course of an investigation does not constitute unprofessional conduct or a breach of professional ethics on the part of the person by whom it is given, nor does it contravene relevant sections of other acts. Because obviously, privacy is a really big thing nowadays, and there are lots of acts and there are lots of different acts that overlap in relation to privacy provision. Child protection is a state-run organisation. Other organisations are run by federal funded, acts. So child protection you are able to share information with child protection without thinking that you are breaching professional ethics.
Can we hold on any further questions, please, if you don't mind? I'd like you to continue because Mary's still got to speak. Okay. All right.
Well, look, obviously, what I was going to say was I think that's probably, kind of gives a good overview of what we do and how we do it and stuff like that. The only other thing that I was going to say was, obviously in relation to our contact details, if someone wants to make a notification, as I said, they all go to our Dandenong office. The number to contact is at the Dandenong office, because I can't remember, it's, there's a 1300 number and I've forgotten it on my little piece of paper. The Dandenong office's telephone number is 9213 2111. And if you wish to make a notification, obviously you speak with them and ask to speak to the intake team, and they will look at taking the details and talking to you through the process.
And what's the best
Kathy,
service somebody can call? What's the best service somebody can call if they're not confident about what they're seeing, they just want to run it past somebody? Is it their strange child?
Well, Child Protection's role is to look at supporting people around, concerns about children and families. And, Child First's role is also to look at, doing that kind of stuff too. But what we would say is contact Child Protection, and obviously they can look at talking you through, where that's at.
Kathy, I've noticed that you've got a whole lot of handouts.
I do, yeah.
And so those people who feel a need to be involved and have a reason to take one, it should be distributed and you'll be able to grab it afterwards.
Yeah, hang on, here's the number, I've got it here. It's 1300 655 795.
And everybody got that?
Yeah. Especially a bit more fully, if that's okay. It's important that when you understand that when you ring Child Protection, you are in effect making a report. Now, I don't want to detract from you making a report if you think a child has been abused. So my advice would be that you are always welcome to ring Child Protection. You are also always welcome to ring our statewide funded Child First Family Support Services. And in this region, Family Life operate the Child First site, and Jewish Care is a member of that alliance. And Mary, I'm going to take a leap in faith and think that people could always ring CCASA if they had concerns that a child was being sexually abused and wanted to do a secondary consultation is what we would call it. Is that okay, Mary?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good segue.
So, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That was a really great presentation, and now we invite Mary Mass, who is